Monday morning. The most famous restaurant in Seoul has gone completely still. The kitchen staff, hardened professionals who have survived Mr. Kim's rages for years, are all staring at the back corner. At her, the dishwashing girl. The quiet black American who barely speaks Korean. Mr. Kim himself has walked out of his private kitchen for the first time in 6 months, and he is looking for her. If you have ever moved somewhere no one knows your name just to finally breathe again, you will understand exactly why Naomi took a job washing dishes in Seoul. And if you have ever loved something so much that losing it made you afraid to love it again, then you will understand everything that comes after. Her mother was Chef Maria Brown, Miami's darling, a James Beard nominee, the first black woman on the cover of a major culinary magazine. Naomi adored her. In their kitchen, Naomi was not just a daughter, she was a sous chef, a student, a shadow that learned how to move like light. Then the accident happened, and the light went out, and Naomi tried to hold the restaurant together with her bare hands until she couldn't anymore. She closed it down. She left. Not because she failed, but because the building, the stove, the city, even the smell of garlic in hot oil had become a kind of grief she couldn't cook her way out of. Seoul was random, safe, anonymous. She took the lowest possible kitchen job on purpose. Nobody looks at the dishwasher. Nobody asks the dishwasher questions. Every night after her shift, she goes home to her tiny apartment and cooks alone because she cannot stop. It is the only thing that makes her feel alive. It is also the one thing she is most afraid to reclaim. Head chef supervisor Min Jung has decided, with great commitment, that Naomi's purpose in this kitchen is to be reminded she is just the dishwasher. She mocks her accent in front of the line cooks, assigns her extra duties with the cheerfulness of someone who enjoys it, and has filed 2 formal complaints for infractions that exist only in her imagination. The kitchen falls in line, because in Mr. Kim's restaurant, Min Jung's word is the law of the lower ranks, and nobody volunteers for trouble. Nobody except Rina. Rina is a junior cook who says whatever she is thinking before she finishes deciding whether to think it. She first notices Naomi, not because of anything dramatic, but because of the small things. The way Naomi arranges the dish racks like she had experience in running a professional kitchen. The way she adjusts the heat under a passing pot without breaking stride. The way you only do when temperature management is built into your hands. The way she looks at the plates coming back from the dining room, not with the indifference of a dishwasher, but with the quiet, evaluating eye of someone who knows exactly what went wrong with the sauce. Rina starts finding reasons to linger near the dish station. One afternoon during a slow prep hour, she breaks the ice the only way Rina knows how, with no warning and no filter. "Okay, I have to ask," Rina says, leaning against the counter. "Are you actually a chef?" Naomi doesn't look up from the dishes. "I'm a dishwasher." "Right. But are you a chef who is currently a dishwasher?" "Those are the same thing right now." Rina stares at her. "You just adjusted the heat on Chef Juan's stock pot as you walked past it." A pause. "It was too high." "You're not even assigned to that station." "The stock didn't care." Rina grins so wide it is almost inconvenient for her face. From that afternoon on, they are work buddies. Rina talking, Naomi responding in the dry, unhurried way of someone who finds people exhausting and also, quietly, a little entertaining. They happen to share a day off. Rina is in the neighborhood, or claims to be, though the detour is suspicious, and on pure impulse, she shows up at Naomi's apartment unannounced. Naomi opens the door. The smell hits Rina before she can even say hello. "I thought you lived alone," Rina says, craning her neck to look past her. "Do you see anybody else here?" "Then what is that? Are you cooking right now?" Rina. "I knew it." She walks straight into the kitchen like she owns it. "I told myself, that woman has knife hands. Nobody gets knife hands from washing dishes." Naomi laughs despite herself. A real one, short and surprised. She goes back to the stove. finishes the dish, plates it with the quiet efficiency of someone who has done this 10,000 times, and sets it in front of Rina without ceremony. Rina takes one bite. The silence that follows is the loudest thing that has happened in that apartment in a year. Naomi. You are washing dishes. Rina's voice is genuinely pained. When you could be... She gestures broadly at the plate, at the kitchen, at the general concept of fine dining. Feeding gods, or actual gods. It relaxes me. This relaxes you. Rina takes another bite. Her eyes close. I cannot believe you are cooking this at home and washing dishes in a restaurant. I want to believe you have your reasons. But I need you to understand that whatever you are running from, you need to stop. Because this is not a hobby, this is a calling, and you are currently filing it under Tuesday evening on day off. Naomi says nothing. She refills Rina's bowl. They talk about work and each other's life. From that evening on, Rina was involved in her life, whether Naomi had signed off on it or not, which she had not, and which she found herself caring less and less about as the weeks went on. Late at night, after every guest has gone and every staff member has left, Mr. Kim returns to his private kitchen. He cooks slowly, not for anyone, just for himself. The tension leaves his face. His shoulders drop. For the first time all day, he looks like a human being rather than a verdict. The kitchen is the only room in the world where Mr. Kim is not dangerous. It is his sanctuary, his confessional, the one place where nothing he has done in the dark follows him in. He has cooked alone in this kitchen for 12 years. He has never once invited anyone to share it. The night everything changes, the head chef collapses with food poisoning 3 hours before a private high-stakes dinner. The kitchen descends into the specific chaos of professionals who are too disciplined to panic, but doing it anyway, quietly, in their own stations. Rina had asked Naomi earlier to handle the staff meal, the same dish she'd eaten at the apartment. In the madness of the collapsed service, Rina makes a decision in about 4 seconds that she will never fully apologize for. She takes Naomi's staff meal dish, plates it properly, and slips it onto Mr. Kim's tasting menu. She tells absolutely no one. The kitchen goes silent when Mr. Kim's private dining room bell rings. The one that means come here now. He has never rung it mid-service before. His head of security appears at the kitchen door, scanning the room slowly. And who made the gochujang glazed short rib with the sorghum reduction? Every head turns, not toward the door, but toward each other, searching for an answer nobody officially has. Rina stares at the wall. Her expression is angelic. Mr. Kim is still seated at the head of the table, and he has not touched the rest of his plate. He is looking at the dish. His expression is completely unreadable, which, for people who know him, is the most alarming expression he owns. The identity of the cook travels through the kitchen the way everything does in that building, through whispers and sideways glances and the careful avoidance of eye contact. Rina confesses to Junho. Junho tells Mr. Kim with the expression of a man delivering news he cannot predict the reaction to. Mr. Kim's response is 4 words. Bring her to me. It is the first time in living kitchen memory that he has summoned someone who is not a chef. Naomi stands before him in her blue dishwasher's apron, arms at her sides, ready to be fired. He looks at her for a long moment, the same way he looked at the dish. You made the short rib. It is not a question. She answers anyway. Yes. Where did you learn to cook like that? My mother. Something moves through his expression, there and gone. He tells her she will be moved to kitchen prep duties. He is not ready to formalize anything yet, but he is not willing to waste what he'd just tasted. He wants to observe. Naomi says nothing. She goes back to her station. The temperature in the kitchen has shifted. Everyone feels it, especially Minjung. Minjung has worked in this kitchen for 7 years. She has survived Mr. Kim's impossible standards, sacrificed relationships, missed her sister's wedding, and clawed her way to head chef supervisor, one brutal month at a time. Her position is not just a job title. It is the proof that she did not waste those 7 years. It is the only thing she has that is entirely, inarguably hers. And now a foreign dishwasher, a woman who has been here less than a year, who speaks broken Korean, who has no formal credentials anyone can verify, has been personally summoned by Mr. Kim. And he looked at her the way he has never once looked at Min-jung in 7 years. She begins watching Naomi. Closely. Weeks pass. The annual private gala is approaching, the most high-pressure event on the restaurant's calendar, invitation only, are attended by Seoul's most powerful and most dangerous. Min-jung is technically in charge of the kitchen floor. This is the one night that justifies every single one of those 7 years. Rina, spectacularly unbothered by all of this, has been quietly campaigning. "1 dish," she tells Naomi. "Just 1. For the staff pre-service buffet. Back of house only. Nobody important will even see it." "Rina, I'm just saying, you've been cooking for us in secret for weeks, and it's genuinely criminal that nobody outside this prep station knows about it." "That's the point." "Right, but consider, what if it wasn't?" Naomi agrees reluctantly and tells herself it means nothing. Min-jung hears about it. She says nothing. The gala is going perfectly. Every course lands on time. Min-jung is exactly where she worked 7 years to be, visible, necessary, us in control. Then she passes the staff corner and sees it. Naomi's dish, plated quietly in the corner. She takes a small bite when no one is looking. It is extraordinary. That single bite breaks something open in her chest because it confirms what she has been afraid of since the private dinner. This woman is not a curiosity. She is genuinely, undeniably gifted. The ground Min-jung has been standing on for 7 years has a crack running straight through it, so she makes a decision. The dessert course, her responsibility, her domain, she deliberately underprepares it. Not enough to be obvious, just enough to create a gap. Her calculation: in the chaos, Naomi will be pushed forward, crack under pressure in front of Mr. Kim's most important guests, and prove she is nothing but a home cook in the wrong kitchen. What Min-jung does not account for is Rina. The dessert gap sends the kitchen into quiet, disciplined panic. Rina doesn't think. She reacts. She physically grabs Naomi by the shoulders and turns her toward the pass. "Cook," Rina says. "Right now. I will handle everything else." "I am not Naomi. Now." Naomi's hands just move. 20 minutes later, she sends out a deconstructed sweet potato cheesecake with a brown butter caramel that smells like a southern grandmother's kitchen filtered through a Michelin star. Every plate comes back empty. Min-jung watches from across the kitchen. Her plan didn't crack Naomi under pressure. It gave her a spotlight. Mr. Kim takes 1 bite, then another. He puts down his fork and goes very, very quiet. Junho leans over. "Boss? Find out who made this." He already sees her. The woman in the blue dishwasher's apron, frozen at the pass, calculating the fastest exit. He recognizes her. The short rib. The girl he moved to prep. She has been here the entire time, hiding in plain sight, and she just fed his most powerful guests the best dessert this kitchen has ever produced. Most people go still under his gaze because they are afraid. She goes still from the instinct of someone who has spent a year learning to disappear. He finds this, unexpectedly, both interesting and privately, faintly irritating, as though something that was always supposed to be visible has been deliberately hiding from him. Security brings Naomi to the edge of the dining room. She stands in her dishwasher's apron, surrounded by Seoul's most powerful people in their finest clothes. Mr. Kim crosses the room toward her. He stops in front of her. He looks at her, with complete, unhurried attention. "That is the 2nd time," he says. She knows what he means. The short rib at the private dinner. And now this. 2 dishes, same hands, same result. He reaches into his jacket, produces a single card, and places it in her hand without ceremony. No title, just a number, and the word, kitchen. You work for this kitchen now, he says. Properly. He walks away. Monday morning. She arrives to find her locker already moved to the chef's corridor. A new name badge sits on top of her belongings. Junior sous chef. No note, no explanation. Just the fact of it, sitting there like a decision that has already been made and does not require her input. The kitchen staff sees it before she even picks it up. Minjung sees it. Her jaw tightens. She says nothing. And then Mr. Kim walks out of his private kitchen. The restaurant goes completely still. Every hardened professional, every line cook, every person who has survived years of his rages, all of them staring at the back corner. At her. Naomi grips her rubber gloves from pure muscle memory. He walks directly to her and stops. She looks up. Wrong station, he says. And what he means, what every single person in that kitchen understands, is, you are not the dishwasher anymore. Stop standing like one. Naomi pulls off the rubber gloves, sets them down, moves to the chef's counter. The kitchen exhales. Junior sous chef. Reporting directly to him. His kitchen, his rules. No orientation beyond what she observes and absorbs. She tells herself it is just a job. He is impossible. He critiques everything without explaining the critique. He communicates in silences that other people spend entire days decoding. He has zero interest in making her comfortable and complete, undivided interest, though he would never say this aloud, in making her better. She pushes back. Every single time, she critiques his flavor balance with the same calm certainty he uses to critique her plating. She does not flinch when he raises his voice. She does not apologize for opinions she believes in. The acid is off, she says one afternoon, quietly, without looking up from her station. The kitchen staff freezes. Mr. Kim turns from the pass very slowly. What did you say? The acid in the broth. It's fighting the sweetness instead of lifting it. It's been off all week. The silence in that kitchen is the kind that has a texture to it. You want to fix my broth, he says. I want the broth to taste right. Rena, across the kitchen, stares at her own cutting board with the focused expression of a person desperately trying not to react. The kitchen watches in absolute horror and fascination as Mr. Kim walks to the broth, tastes it, says nothing, and adjusts the acid. He never acknowledges the exchange. He doesn't need to. Rena finds Naomi in the corridor afterward. I need you to understand, she whispers, that no one in the history of this kitchen has ever corrected that man's broth and lived to discuss it calmly. The broth was off. That is not the point. That is entirely the point. Rena stares at her. You know what? You and him are actually the same person, and it is deeply concerning. Late one night, after the restaurant sleeps, Naomi stays behind to work on a sauce that isn't cooperating. She doesn't know Mr. Kim is still in the building. He comes in to do what he always does, cook alone, decompress, exist without consequence for an hour. He stops when he sees her. She looks up. Neither of them speaks. Then, with the careful stiffness of a man who has not shared a kitchen with another person by choice in over a decade, he walks to the opposite counter and begins cooking his own dish. In silence, two people, one kitchen, not touching, not talking, just cooking side by side while the restaurant sleeps around them. It is the most intimate thing either of them has experienced in years. Neither will admit this, not yet. When she leaves, he stands alone and looks at the counter where she was standing. He comes back the next night. She is there again, and neither of them mentions it. It becomes the most unspoken agreement either of them has ever kept. And in a kitchen built on precision and stated expectation, that silence is its own kind of language. Minjung, now threatened in ways she doesn't have clean words for, begins digging. She finds what she was looking for faster than she expected. Naomi Brown, daughter of the late chef Maria Brown, a restaurant that quietly collapsed after her mother's death. No formal culinary credentials traceable in Korea. No documentation. Just a grief-hollowed woman who walked into Seoul and started washing dishes. Minjung calls a food blogger she knows. She is careful with her words, careful enough to keep her own hands clean. The story she feeds him is this: Naomi wrote her dead mother's name to gain kitchen access. She has no real credentials. Mr. and Kim has been deceived into elevating a grief-stricken fraud with nothing to show but borrowed talent and a dead woman's recipes. The story spreads fast through Seoul's tight culinary circles, the way fire spreads when someone has already laid the kindling. For Naomi, it is not just her career being attacked. It is her mother's name being dragged through the mud to do it. It is Chef Maria Brown, James Beard nominee, cover of a major culinary magazine, a woman who cooked with more soul than most people have in their entire bodies, being reduced to a cautionary footnote in someone else's sabotage. That is a different kind of wound, the kind that doesn't bleed where anyone can see it. Naomi comes in early the next morning. Mr. Kim is already in the kitchen, alone. He does not look up when she enters. He slides a printed article across the counter. Slowly, deliberately, without a word. She sees her own face first, then her mother's name beneath it. The headline sits there between them, like something that cannot be taken back. Mafia chef deceived by dead legend's unqualified daughter. The kitchen is completely silent. Mr. Kim looks up. His voice, when it comes, is perfectly calm. That somehow makes it worse. "You want to tell me who you actually are?" Naomi doesn't move. The article sits between them on the counter. Her face, her mother's name, the headline arranged like a verdict someone spent time crafting. The kitchen is completely silent except for the low hum of the refrigeration units. Mr. Kim is looking at her with that calm, unreadable expression that the rest of Seoul has learned to be afraid of. She picks up the article and reads it once, sets it back down. "My name is Naomi Brown," she says. "My mother was Chef Maria Brown. She owned a restaurant in Miami for 11 years. She died in an accident 3 years ago, and I closed the restaurant because I couldn't stand in that kitchen without her." She pauses. "I came to Seoul because I needed somewhere nobody knew that name. I took the dishwashing job because I needed to disappear for a while. I didn't deceive you. I just didn't volunteer information you never asked for." She delivers it the way a person speaks when they have rehearsed a story so many times it has calcified. Clean, factual, without tremor. She is ready to be fired. She has been ready since she walked through the door. Mr. Kim says nothing for a long moment. He is looking at the counter. Then, quietly, or in the voice of a man spending something he has been saving for a long time, he says, "My father owned a small restaurant in Busan, nothing famous, 20 seats maybe, the kind of place where fishermen came for breakfast." A pause. "It burned down when I was 17. I've been trying to rebuild what that kitchen felt like ever since." He says it like it costs him something. Then he closes the article, folds it once, and slides it off the counter entirely. "This won't be a problem," he says. He leaves. Naomi stands alone in the kitchen for a full minute before she can make herself move. She understands now what they are both doing here. She is cooking to stay close to her mother. He is cooking to recover something a fire took from him when he was still young enough to be destroyed by it. And two people with the same wound and different scars, standing in the same kitchen every night, pretending it is about the food. Within 48 hours, Minjung is gone. No announcement, no dramatic confrontation, just an empty locker and a name removed from the schedule. The blogger's post disappears the same day. Not deleted, not retracted, simply gone, as though it never existed. The blogger never explains why. He never will. Naomi doesn't ask Mr. Kim about it, but she understands that what he did was not merely efficient. Efficient would have been a lawyer's letter. What he did was go looking, find the source, and remove it, the way you remove something that got too close to something you are protecting. There is a difference between solving a problem and shielding a person. She knows the difference. She starts looking at him differently. Not with the cautious defiance she arrived with something slower and more dangerous than either of them is prepared to name. The late-night kitchen sessions are no longer accidental. Both of them know this. Neither says it. What changes is small at first. He starts plating her dishes without being asked, adjusting the garnish, rotating the bowl a quarter turn, the way you do when the presentation is almost right but not quite. She starts tasting his sauces and wordlessly passing him a pinch of something that makes it better. One night she looks up to find he has already adjusted the flame under her reduction, and she realizes she didn't even notice him move, which means she has stopped tracking him as a threat, which means something has shifted at a level below conscious decision. As they are cooking together without ever agreeing to. One night she makes a dish she has not made for anyone since before her mother's funeral. A family recipe. Something private in the way that only food can be private. A dish that lives in the body before it lives in the memory. The kind you learn by standing next to someone and watching their hands. She plates it with less ceremony than usual and slides it across the counter toward him without a word. He looks at it, then at her. Then he takes a bite. The silence that follows is different from his usual silences. His usual silences are controlled. This one is something he is moving through. "What is this?" he asks. "Something my mother used to make," Naomi says, when someone needed taking care of. She immediately looks away and busies herself at the sink. He doesn't respond, but he finishes every single bite. And when he leaves, coat on, keys in hand, he pauses at the kitchen door. He doesn't turn around. "She would have been proud of you," he says. Then he is gone. Naomi stands alone in the empty kitchen for a long time, the hum of the refrigeration units, the low warmth of the ovens cooling down, her mother's dish on a counter in Seoul, scraped clean. She doesn't cry. She just stands there and lets herself feel, for the first time in 3 years, that the thing she is most afraid of might also be the thing that is saving her. The new tasting menu is almost finished. It has been weeks in the making, the two of them circling it from opposite directions, him bringing the architecture and the technical severity, her bringing something warmer and less careful, and the combination producing dishes that neither of them could have arrived at alone. The food press is circling. Mr. Kim's rivals are paying attention. There is a buzz moving through Seoul's culinary underground. Something extraordinary is coming out of that kitchen. Something that tastes different from anything he has done before. More human somehow. Like it was made by someone who has something to say. Which it was. By two people who have not yet said it to each other. Junho notices this. He starts scheduling fewer late-night security check-ins through the kitchen corridor. He does not explain why. He is not asked. Rena notices too. She expresses this the way Rena expresses most things. Directly and at a volume slightly too high for the space. "You two are building a menu together," she says to Naomi one afternoon during prep. "Yes." "You argue for 40 minutes about one garnish." "He was wrong about the garnish." "And then you both end up agreeing on something neither of you originally suggested." "That's called a compromise." "That," Rena says, pointing her knife, "is called something else. I have a word for it. I'm not going to say the word because you will deny it aggressively, and I don't have the energy." "Good. But I'm thinking it very loudly." "I can tell." Rena returns to her cutting board. The garnish looks great, by the way. Then comes the service night that breaks everything open. A VIP table, 8 guests, a rival restaurant owner among them, the kind of audience where every plate is a statement. The kitchen is running at full tension. Midway through service, a sauce breaks. Not catastrophically, but noticeably. It is fixable. Naomi is already fixing it. Mr. Kim comes to the pass, sees it before it is finished, and delivers a public correction. In front of the full line. In front of everyone. Naomi says nothing. She fixes the sauce. She finishes the service. Afterward, the kitchen empties fast, the way it does when people sense something is about to happen and have developed good survival instincts. Junho finds a reason to be very interested in something on the other side of the building. Rena takes the longest possible route to the walk-in. Naomi is at the sink when she hears him come in behind her. She turns around. "What you did at the pass," she says, "in front of everyone, don't do that again." He meets her eyes, says nothing. "I know what you were doing. You saw a problem and you corrected it. That is fine. That is your kitchen, and I respect that." Her voice is steady. "But being corrected like that, publicly in front of people who already took a year to stop seeing me as the dishwasher, that felt like every person who has ever used my smallness as a weapon, and I am starting to think that I misjudged you." The silence between them has weight to it. Then he takes one step toward her. Just one. The way a man moves when he is choosing his words with both hands. "You did not misjudge me," he says. "I am exactly as difficult as you think I am. I have spent 12 years making sure no one gets close enough to this kitchen to matter." A pause. The muscle in his jaw moves. "And you walked in with rubber gloves and grief you were barely holding together, and you—" He stops. Something is crossing his face that he does not have clean vocabulary for. Or rather, vocabulary he has not used in so long, it comes out stiff and slightly wrong. "You drive me completely insane," he says. "I know," she says. "I want—" He doesn't finish the sentence with words. He finishes it by closing the remaining distance between them. Not quickly, not dramatically, but with the same quiet certainty he applies to everything he has decided is worth doing correctly. For a moment, neither of them moves. Then she meets him exactly where he is. The kitchen finds them the next morning, plating the final dish of the new tasting menu together, standing closer than is professionally necessary, speaking in the low, easy tones of people who have moved through something and come out the other side permanently altered. Rena walks in, stops, takes a single look, and walks straight back out into the corridor. She stands with her back against the wall for a moment, face aimed at the ceiling. "Finally," she whispers. She goes back inside, says nothing, ties her apron, goes to her station, maintains a completely professional expression for approximately 40 seconds before the grin takes over and refuses to leave her face for the rest of the morning. Junho appears in the doorway at 9:15. His expression is tight in the specific way of a man delivering information he cannot predict the response to. "Boss," Mr. Kim looks up from the pass. "There's a man downstairs, American, says he knew her mother." Junho pauses. "Says he has documents, original recipes, ownership papers from the Miami restaurant." Naomi goes very still. "He says he's her mother's former business partner. He's requesting a meeting." The kitchen has gone quiet. Mr. Kim does not look at Junho. He is looking at Naomi, not with the careful evaluating gaze he arrived with 11 months ago, but with something more settled and more dangerous, like a man who has spent a lifetime knowing exactly when someone is coming to take something, and exactly what to do about it. "Bring him up," he says. Then, quietly, so that only she can hear it, "Stay." The man from Miami is polished in the way that money makes people polished. Smooth surface, nothing visible underneath. He has a name, a firm handshake, and a leather portfolio that he sets on the table with the careful placement of someone who wants you to look at it. He smiles at Naomi with the specific warmth of a man who believes he has already won and is simply allowing the situation to arrive at the conclusion he has prepared. He explains, clearly and without rush, that Chef Maria Brown, in the final year of her life, entered into a business partnership, that the original recipes developed in her kitchen, the intellectual property that formed the foundation of her culinary identity, were documented and assigned as assets to an LLC he formed on her behalf. He has the paperwork. He places it on the table with the same careful deliberateness as the portfolio. He is not threatening. He is worse than threatening. He is legal. "I have nothing against Naomi," he says, with a warmth that makes the hair on her arm stand up. "I just want what's fair." "Mister," and Kim has been sitting at the head of the table through all of this with no expression on his face. Not cold, not angry, simply listening, with the total, undivided attention of a man who is filing every word, every pause, every carefully constructed sentence into a category that already has a name. When the man finishes, Mr. Kim is quiet for a moment, then, "Are you done?" "As I said, I just want—" "You said what you want." Mr. Kim's voice is perfectly level. "You want what you can take." There is a difference between those two things, and I am very familiar with that particular type of person, because I used to be one. He stands. The meeting is over, not because he announced it, but because the temperature in the room has changed in a way that makes continuing suddenly inadvisable. The man doesn't fully understand what has happened until he is already in the elevator. Naomi finds Mr. Kim in the kitchen that evening. She doesn't ask about the meeting. She doesn't ask what he is going to do. She goes to her station and starts cooking, because that is what she does when she doesn't have words yet. She cooks until the words arrive. He is already at the opposite counter. They work in silence for a while, not the tense, careful silence of two people avoiding something, the other kind. The silence of two people who have run out of things they need to explain to each other. "You didn't have to do that," she finally says. "I know. The meeting, you didn't have to sit in that room with me." He doesn't look up from what he is doing. "I didn't do it because I had to." She looks at the side of his face for a moment. "Why did you do it?" He's quiet for long enough that she thinks he might not answer. Then, "Because 12 years ago, someone sat across a table from me and took something I couldn't get back. I know what that looks like from the other side." He sets down his knife. "And I was not going to let that happen in my building." "It wasn't your fight. You are in my kitchen," he says simply. "Everything in my kitchen is my concern." She looks at him. "Is that all I am? Something in your kitchen?" He looks back at her. The answer is in his expression before he finds the words for it. "No," he says, "that is not all you are." He picks his knife back up. "That is actually the problem." She almost smiles. "You're saying I'm a problem?" "I'm saying you are the most inconvenient thing that has ever happened to me." "That is genuinely the most romantic thing you've ever said." He gives her a look. She goes back to her sauce. But she is smiling, properly, the kind that reaches everything. Within the week, his lawyers have dismantled every document, every LLC, every carefully constructed legal structure the man spent years building. The paperwork, the portfolio placed on the table with such careful deliberation, turns out to be considerably less solid than it appeared once people who understand these things begin pulling at the seams. The man boards a flight back to Miami and does not come back. He does not call. He sends no follow-up correspondence. He simply leaves, the way people leave when they have correctly calculated that the cost of continuing has become unreasonable. Chef Maria Brown's recipes belong to her daughter. They always did. Mr. Kim's private office is a room no staff member has ever been invited into. Naomi has walked past the door 100 times and treated it the way you treat a closed door that is clearly meant to stay that way. He opens it himself. The room is sparse. A desk, 2 chairs, a single framed photograph on the wall, a small restaurant storefront, an old sign in Korean she doesn't immediately recognize. Busan, she realizes. 20 seats maybe. On the desk is a single document. He sits. She sits across from him, the same way she sat across from him in her dishwasher's apron 11 months ago, ready to be fired. Except this time, his expression is not the careful, evaluating blankness of a man deciding what to do with an unexpected variable. It is something else, something that has taken a long time to arrive at his face and settled there like it intends to stay. He slides the document toward her. Her name is already on it. She reads it twice to be sure she is reading it correctly. The restaurant, the deed. Her name, printed clean and final at the bottom of a page that represents 12 years of his work and a life's worth of hers. This kitchen was always looking for its chef, he says. He is looking directly at her. Not at the document, not at the desk, at her. It just took me a while to understand that. Naomi looks at the document for a long time. She thinks about Miami, about the last morning she stood in her mother's kitchen and could not make herself turn on the stove, and about the flight to Seoul she booked on a Tuesday night because Seoul was the first city that came up when she typed the words somewhere far away and meant it. About the rubber gloves, about the dish racks she arranged with more precision than a dishwasher needed to, about Rena's voice saying, "You're washing dishes when you could be feeding gods," with a full bowl of food and no patience for self-destruction. About a man who paused near her station because of a smell, said nothing, and came back the next night, and the night after that, and has not stopped coming back. About her mother's recipes. Reclaimed now, the legal threat dissolved, the shadow of grief around them shifting into something different. Not painless, but possible. Like a door that was locked for 3 years and now simply stands open and waiting for her to decide to walk through. Her hands, the same hands that once gripped rubber gloves and prayed for invisibility, reach out and sign her name. She caps the pen, sets it down. "My mother would have liked you," she says. She had no patience for people who were afraid to be excellent. Something shifts in his face, quickly, but she sees it. "Is that a compliment?" "It's an observation. From you, those are the same thing." She smiles. He almost does. The restaurant's first evening under her name. She prepares a private dinner, 2 place settings. The room is quiet and lit low, and the table is the same corner table. The one he sat at the night of the failed dessert course, when he put down his fork and said, "Find out who made this," and everything that followed from that moment, followed from that moment. She tells herself it is a celebration. She is right, but not entirely in the way she prepared for. He arrives without the coat he usually wears when he is performing the role of the most dangerous man in any room. He arrives in the simpler version of himself, the one she has only ever seen in the late-night kitchen, when the restaurant is asleep and he has stopped performing anything. He sits. She brings the first course out herself. They eat without the formality that has characterized every other meal in this dining room. He tells her something about Busan she hasn't heard before, about the way his father's kitchen smelled on cold mornings, a specific combination of doenjang and wood smoke that he has never been able to exactly recreate and has stopped trying to. And she tells him something about Miami, about the way her mother used to play Stevie Wonder while she prepped, loudly, off-key, and how Naomi used to be embarrassed by it and would give anything to hear it now. They talk in the easy way of people who have already moved through the hard part. She brings out the final course herself, a dish she built for this evening specifically, for him specifically, Korean and Southern on a single plate, gochujang and brown butter, his city and her mother's city sitting together on white porcelain, making a kind of sense that neither ingredient makes alone. He looks at it for a moment before he looks up at her. Then he stands, reaches into his jacket, and places a ring on the table beside her bowl. No speech, no performance, no arrangement of the moment for effect. And just the same quiet certainty he brings to everything he has decided actually matters. The same certainty that moved him across a gala dining room, that slid a card into her hand, that closed an article on a counter and said, "This won't be a problem." "Don't disappear on me," he says. Naomi looks at the ring, looks at him, thinks about every door she has closed behind her, and the rubber gloves and the dish racks and the smell of brown butter at midnight in a tiny Seoul apartment when she cooked alone because she couldn't stop. She laughs, a real one, full and surprised and unguarded, the kind she forgot she was capable of. "I'm not going anywhere," she says. "This is my kitchen." She says yes. Every evening after that, without fail, he comes back. Not as the owner, not as the man Seoul is afraid of, and not as anyone's boss or rival or the subject of anyone's careful calculation. Simply as a man who is hungry and in love, and who has discovered, to his own considerable surprise, That these two things are not so different from each other. That both of them require the same thing, showing up night after night, and trusting that what you find will be worth the arriving. He takes his corner table. The same one. He orders nothing from the menu. He simply sits and waits with the patience of someone who knows exactly what is coming and has decided that the waiting is not a burden, but a pleasure, a thing to be held and turned over while the kitchen sounds filter through the closed door and the smell of whatever she is making tonight travels the distance between them before she does. She cooks for him personally. Something different every night. Sometimes it is her mother's recipes. Reclaimed now, standing in the open air of a life that has made room for them again. Not the grief-hollowed versions she used to cook alone at midnight, hands moving from muscle memory, while the rest of her stayed carefully somewhere else. These are the full versions, the ones her mother cooked with Stevie Wonder playing too loud and no apology for it. Naomi cooks them now with the same unapologetic fullness, and when she plates them, she feels her mother not as an absence, but as a presence at her shoulder, approving, exacting, proud. Sometimes it is something she invented for him specifically, a dish that only makes sense if you know exactly who he is. If you know about the Busan kitchen and what the fire took from a 17-year-old boy who rebuilt himself around the loss of it. If you know that he has spent 12 years in a kitchen that was a fortress, cooking alone, convincing himself that was enough, and that it stopped being enough the moment a woman in rubber gloves adjusted a passing stock pot and couldn't explain why. He eats slowly, the way a man eats when he has stopped being hungry for just food. Then he folds his napkin, stands, walks to the kitchen door and pushes it open. And she is always already untying her apron, the way you are ready for something when you have stopped pretending you are not expecting it. Junho is at the car. He looks away with the practiced discretion of a man who has made a private decision to find the middle distance extremely interesting every night at this exact time. Rena locks up behind them. Every single night, she watches them go through the back door. The same door Naomi once used to make herself invisible, the door that now simply takes her home. And every single night Rena shakes her head with the grin of someone who was right about something important before anyone else was willing to admit it. Unbelievable, she says, turning off the kitchen lights. The dishwasher. The kitchen that once made her invisible made her legendary. The man who cooked alone for 12 years finally had someone to cook beside. And the girl who ran from everything she loved stopped running, not back to Miami, not backward into grief. Forward, and into this kitchen, this city, this life, into a man who paused near a dish station because of a smell he couldn't name and spent the next year finding out why. Into her mother's recipes, standing in the light now, freed from the weight of loss and given back their original meaning. That food is how you tell someone you love them when the words won't come, and that sometimes the truest thing you can do is feed a person and stay and let yourself be fed in return. She came to Seoul to disappear. She stayed because of what found her while she was hiding. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.